Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out, where we bring on business owners who may or may not have a GED, but everybody knows how to get shit done. Today, we have Jenna Harris with us. Jenna, please give us a little bit of background on yourself, introduce yourself, and introduce your company.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me here. This is awesome. I love that. Like, may or may not have a GED, but get shit done because those are my people. I have a business called SmartOpsClub where I essentially work with plumbing and HVAC business owners to increase their profitability and prepare to scale. I got into this from one, making my own business mistakes throughout my life, and I have a heart for the trades, for the blue collar people, because I come from a blue collar family with a dad who was great at his trade and had no idea how to run a business, and it cost our family everything. So if I can lessen that pain for other people, even just a little bit, I want to do that.
No, that's awesome. That background and that tie personally really separates out people in the space of like, there's a lot of people, and you know this if you're in the space right now, that are jumping into the blue collar home service space wanting to
Mm-hmm.
extract money out of it because there's a lot of money in there right now. And unfortunately, I've come across it. I'm sure you've come across it. Some of those people jumping in really don't have any background and don't really know how to help in a specific way. So that tied experience matters. Can you give a couple of examples where that has actually established relationships for you with other owners?
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from my background, my husband and I currently own a gutter business. And so even just having, like, I'm in the trenches with these people too. Like, if they're having an issue with a team, like, I'm having issues with my team also. Even when we install a system and we think it's going to run perfectly, we're human, and human error is the biggest challenge in any business. Like, we'd all be so successful if we didn't have to deal with people, right? And so, I mean, when I can relate to these problems that these owners are having, like your phone blowing up a million times a day, um, callbacks from angry customers, or your team not filling out their freaking scorecard for the fifth day in a row this week, like all of those things, like I get it because I'm there. I I figured out what works for us most of the time, and so we kind of just tailor it to each person.
Well, that's kind of the important part is understanding the owners that you're working with are individuals. They all have different strengths. We all have different bandwidths. It's trying to figure out how do you meet them on their level and assist where you can assist in a meaningful way. I think so often we, especially as service providers for these businesses, try to sometimes shove people into a box. And well, we're entrepreneurs, right? You can't shove an entrepreneur into a box because that's just not how, that's probably why we became entrepreneurs in the first place. So, like,
Oh,
as you've curtailed and changed or, found ways to fit these things with different clients, what have you noticed though, right? That are commonalities or patterns across different industries, regardless of the owner type?
uh, do we want to do the positive traits or the challenges first?
Both.
Both. Okay. Okay. So, first of all, the positive traits. The ones who do really well are smart enough to know that they don't know everything and humble enough to admit it. The guys who come in with a big ego, like, well, you've never been in an attic that's 120 degrees, like, fixing a unit. What do you know about my business? It's like, well, the problem is that that's all you know about your business is how to be in an attic in 110 degrees fixing a unit. So, those folks aren't like they're going to be stuck there. But the ones who, they're very headstrong, they're very proud of what they do, and they also they care so much about their teams. Like, so many of these people that I work with, they care so much about their teams, but sometimes that care turns into enabling and not holding them accountable. Um, and so that's a huge challenge. And then the other really common thing I hear all the time, and it drives me absolutely bonkers, is that more leads will save you. Like, if you have broken operations, if you're bleeding profit and not making money on the jobs you're doing, adding more work is just throwing more money out the door at a larger scale. And it drives me crazy when I hear that. Well, we just need more leads. Okay, well, you're not making money on the leads you have.
Yeah.
So help me
It
understand.
one of the one of the phrases that exists out there that drives me nuts is "sales cures all," and I'm
Oh,
like,
I knew you were going to go there and my
no,
skin
actually,
started crawling.
yeah, right. No, it's but it is. It's true, right? You hear that so often from some of these coaching groups that come up, and they're just like, "Oh, you just got to figure out how to get more sales because sales cures everything." And I'm like, if your operations aren't tight, if your processes aren't dialed in, all you're doing is you're just piling on more to a foundation that's already crumbling, and it's going to cause bigger issues. Which is why you see these guys scale to, I don't know, 2.5, 3.5 million is fast. And then it's like every single one of them, I could almost predict if you showed me a lineup of business owners and they told me what their growth was, which ones were going to slam into a really, really hard wall and have to back and walk back and actually reduce their sales before they can grow forward versus the ones that are going to grow forward just fine, right? So
Right.
that's a funny point that you bring up there, and it's funny that it makes your skin crawl because that is kind of just the default status for entrepreneurs in any industry is just like, I just need more sales. But
Hmm.
really, what have you found they actually need?
They need systems and structure. They need consistent, accurate pricing. They need to be tracking how their employees are spending their time, making sure that their labor utilization is on point, making sure that their revenue per hour is on point, making sure that they have systems in place so that their guys don't have to run to the supply house every single job, because that eats away margin, and they don't even really realize it. They think it's normal, right? I mean, the hustle culture in this industry is so strong. Well, I can just outwork it, or I can just work harder. And it's like that might work for a little while, but it's not going to work forever. And it's certainly not going to get you to eight figures, like not even close. It's not going to. And so I think, yeah, they just um, they need to understand their numbers, track their numbers, know what they mean, and know how to course correct based on what the data says. It sounds super
Yeah.
boring, and that's why none of
Inputs.
them want to do it, even if they know how. But I mean, it's the boring stuff that makes successful businesses.
You and I tend to work in spaces where it's the very boring little detailed things that actually are the things that move the needles that most of the time when you start. I was at an event last week, 2 weeks ago, presenting on my side of things, and the amount of people's eyes that were glazing over was actually kind of comical because I'm like, I get it, like this is, trust me, it's boring to me too sometimes,
Yeah.
but super critical to get this stuff right because this is the stuff that if you get it right and you can unglaze your eyes and you can focus, that allows you to have and do the really, really fun stuff on the other side of it. I wanted to touch on a point though, because how often do you start working with owners that have a bookkeeper, have a CPA, maybe even have a fractional, I'm going to use that word lightly, fractional CFO in place already, that are still having these issues, even though somebody is there guiding their numbers and their books?
Great question. I'm so glad you brought that up because I would say about 75% or so of my clients come on board and they have a bookkeeper or something in place. Um, that's out of the house, like not a office manager doing it. And most of them, when I look at their financial statements, they're a mess. Things aren't categorized properly. They can't pull a report and be confident in what it says. And some of them, like in really bad cases, their books are like 2 months behind. And I'm like, you're paying this person $1,500 a month and you can't even know in real time what's happening in your business. Blows my mind. And bookkeeping, like, this is the interesting part for me, is like bookkeeping is not like a very complicated skill. Like, it's really not that challenging. I think that the problem is that there's so many people who just they don't want to learn it, so they blindly hand it off to somebody else, and they don't know if they're doing well or not.
Yeah.
So they get taken advantage of.
It's like, well, it's like any kind of anything, actually. I mean, it's like marketing, it's like CRMs, it's like fractional CFOs, accountants, hiring
Hmm.
LaRana. working with the wrong people in some form of lending or credit space, right? Like there is a point where owners need to at least know a bare minimum of what they are getting into and the processes around it so that you know what to expect and how to inspect it. Because if you don't take time, and I will tell you this because I tell my owners that I work with all the time, like you can go on YouTube and you can learn really, really fast from really, really smart people on how to
Mm-hmm.
quickly read and identify things on a P&L and L and a balance sheet. And even off of that, I tell most owners like P&Ls are important. Your balance sheet is really what you need to learn how to read and why you
Yep.
need to learn how to read it because you can look into 3 or 4 different spots on your balance sheet and immediately go, crap, something's off here. Now I need to go identify these in the P&L. And then you can work your way backwards. And then you can work your way backwards into your systems and your processes and your sales and your marketing and your accounting. And then you can find these issues.
Right.
Because almost always the output that was influenced at some point from a faulty input somewhere along the line that you may or may not have thought you addressed, right? I mean, is that pretty common with what you see?
Yeah, and I mean it is super common, and for the work that I do, like the primary work that I do with business owners, um, we aren't doing a huge deep dive into their financials. I teach them quick and dirty how to read your P&L and your balance sheet so that you can know right now how to operate your business. Now, I will say, um, when you mentioned funding, obviously funding is such a critical component of business growth, and so many owners don't know, like they'll go apply for funding without knowing what's happening in their business and they can't tell the story, and then they get denied, and they're like, well, now I can't grow, I can't add 2 more trucks even though we have enough leads coming in or whatever it is, and they want to fix it really quick. And it's like, okay, but you needed to fix it a year ago and then have the track record of showing you can do it. So it is so critical. And it's the boring stuff. Like plumbers don't want to look at QuickBooks. They just don't. I don't blame them. I don't even like to look at QuickBooks, but it's important. It's so important because money, like getting funding, is the difference between a company that stays stuck at a million and gets to 10 million. 100%.
Yep. No, I mean, I 100% agree. Obviously, being in a parallel with the funding space, not being a direct lender myself, so to speak, but like being in that marketplace, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
preparation and the work done up front is what makes it go so much smoother, and it costs you a lot less money and it costs you a lot less sleep, and when done right, you're in a lot more control than what you think you are. But that's kind of the piece of all of this stuff is, and I'm sure you teach this yourself, and what you're doing is learning how to control the things you can control, and then learning how to delegate the things that you maybe don't necessarily want to control or need to control off to somebody who can, but putting things in place so that you at least can inspect what they're doing and spot check things. Because I've done it. I'm sure you guys have done it. You've hired somebody, they came in, they showed that they were capable of doing something. And you're just like, yes, take everything. And then you just checked out.
Right.
That is the worst thing you can do.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, when I work with owners, it's very much like teach a man to fish, not give a man a fish. It's done with you because as an owner, you have to be a generalist. Like companies are built by generalists and scaled by specialists. And you have to know enough to you have to know enough about all the different components of business to know if you are getting screwed over. Like you can hire out anything you want. Like I firmly believe that you can hire anything you want. But if you don't know what done right looks like yourself, then you have no business hiring that out. Like don't just hire it out because you want to get it off your plate until you know exactly what it's supposed to look like. Because then, like you mentioned, I mean, it's hiring a consultant or a bookkeeper or a fractional CFO or a marketing agency, like it's not a set it and forget it. It's just not. They're living, breathing processes that have to be monitored.
Yep. And you as an owner need to know what to ask. You have to like I was and you have to review things, right? Like my tax returns. Look, I do this for a living. I help people make sure that the details on their tax returns, on their business, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff are in alignment so that you can go get approved. Well, guess what happened last year? My accountant filed my taxes. I did not review it close enough. My accountant filed me as a private lender and an investor, and I wasn't able to qualify for an SBA. So what do I do this year? I'm like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So we get there, get done. Same mistake happened. We forgot to change the one code. The words were different, but fortunately I
Hmm.
caught it before it got finalized. But like, if you don't know where to look for those things or that you should even be looking for those things, you've just destroyed your chances of growth, expansion
For a
before you
whole
even had a chance to
year.
do it. And you didn't even know you did it. And if I'm
Right.
doing it, I
Hmm.
guarantee you that there are a bunch of owners that are out there that are doing it. And that's why we also do a done with you program with our stuff, because I don't want to go in there and do all of it, because you need to learn where these things sit and where they exist so that you can train eventually somebody in house to do this stuff for you and monitor this stuff. Because I will tell you, as you grow and scale, if you want to be eight figures, the details are going to matter even more as you get to
Yep.
that level and you bring in executive team members and you bring in this and you bring in like it doesn't get easier, it just compounds. And if you do it wrong,
Absolutely.
it compounds properly.
Well, and especially when you get that
So
large too, like the scale, I mean the stakes are just so much higher. Like you're talking about losing millions at that point rather than 20 grand here or there, right? So learning it while you're at
yeah.
a manageable size is the best route.
Yeah. And it's wild to me how many owners scale to, I mean, I guess I've got some that have scaled to pretty large numbers, like north of 10 million. And when you ask them, like, what does your revenue look like? What do your numbers look like? And they just kind of look at you like a deer in the headlights. And they're like, I don't know. I just go sell. And you're just like, what? What do you mean?
Hmm.
Like, the reason I like these conversations is you and I speak to a lot of different owners. You are an owner. We have some ownership in our own companies. We see it ourselves, and we're experts at this stuff, and we still miss things,
Yep.
right? And that's just the nature of it. But the amount of, especially in this space, these blue collar owners, like the amount of people that are just they something happened in life. They came from a bad background. Maybe they weren't good at school. Maybe this, maybe that. That are just working off of sheer chip on the shoulder, stubbornness, a little bit of stupidity, but mostly just effort and going, I don't want to go back to where I was ever again. That scale to north of $2.5 million in businesses, that like when you start to ask them about numbers, and I had a guy the other day that was doing 3.5 million concrete. I was like, what are you guys pacing for revenue this year? He's like, well, I have no idea. I'm like, how, how do we not know this stuff? My bookkeeper does this, but they do it every like 3 months. No. Like,
Yeah.
how do you adjust on the fly?
I call it failing forward. There's a lot of companies that I work with that have quote unquote like failed forward or that I've been in contact with where they're great at selling or they're great at building their reputation in the community, so their revenue increases. And they have no idea how it happened. They're just like, "Oh my gosh, we're busy, so we got to hire and we got to do this, we got to do that." And it's they think it's amazing. It's like they're bringing in all this revenue and the trucks are busy every day, but they're stuck in this like busy but broke kind of cycle where maybe 3 million's coming in, but they're keeping 100 grand of it at the end of the year, like because it's just bleeding out everywhere. And they don't even know because they're able to pay their bills, they're not sweating payroll anymore. um, but they're just barely scraping by. Like they're one bad month away from catastrophe. And it's because they don't even know how they got to that point, which means they can't possibly be strategic about maintaining, let alone growing from that point.
Yeah.
And so the sooner
And then
they
how do you
realize that
take
they need
that?
help, the better they'll be.
Well, yeah. And to your point, and I didn't mean to interrupt you on that, but
Oh,
like,
go for it.
and I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask you another question off of this here too, as we're kind of approaching our time. But um, I see so often that those are the exact type of owners that will go take out like debt, not usually good debt because they usually can't qualify for good debt. And then they go, I don't understand why I can't get out of this cycle that I'm in and why I can't get ahead of this. Money's coming in. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know where it's all going. And I'm sitting here going like, you don't even understand the true cost of like the money you took out, much less your baseline numbers. So of course you don't understand this aspect of things. And the reason I like the coaching or the guidance from like your side of things is almost on it, like always when I hit those people and they come to us, I'm like, another loan isn't going to fix you.
Yep.
It's not. And so we've got to go back and we got to walk back 3 to 5 steps, and we've got to fix probably 3 to 5 operational things first, right? I'm guessing your pricing's probably not right. Your marketing's not working the way you think it is. Your sales probably sucks. You probably have hundreds of leads that are in your pipeline that you thought you were following up with that haven't heard from you in God knows how long,
Yep.
right? Your clients that you sold previously have probably never been touched over the last like 2 years and don't even know you still exist. Like, so like, let's back up a little bit here, guys. Like, another loan is just going to be another scoop of dirt onto your grave right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you get those
Totally.
people to slow up and walk backwards on your side?
That's tough. I mean,
Sometimes you don't, but
sometimes you don't. Not every, I always tell this, I tell my clients this too, like, not everyone's your customer. Like, not everyone's my client, right? Like, you have to be all in. You have to be willing to change if you truly want to be successful. Now, I will say I have a lot of times in my consultations, I'll pull up a profit calculator, and it's just super simple gross margin, and we'll analyze like 5 jobs on the call, like the 5 most recent jobs. And either, sometimes they don't know their numbers at all, like how much it actually cost them, or they'll estimate. And then, we'll say, okay, let's go look it up in your software now that I have you on the call. Like, let's just get to the bottom of this. And then sometimes I'll put it in there and they'll see, like, oh my gosh, like this is the first time somebody's actually shown me what they're talking about. Like, I mean, because you and we speak a different language because we talk about this stuff all day long. And I find myself even kind of speaking too fast or using jargon that they might not use. Just like they can't rattle off like 25 different parts to an AC unit and expect me to know what they are, right? And so I try really hard to actually show them with their own data. Like, let's look at your job and figure out exactly where you're breaking down here. And then once they see that, they're like, oh my gosh, okay, I get it now. I finally get it because it's visual, it's their own numbers. So that usually, I mean, that often works. Sometimes there's still just, you know, that just distrust. And I don't blame him. I mean, there's a lot of people in this field right now, helping these businesses that don't know what they're talking about. And they have no idea what
yeah,
what the company needs. And these people are being taken advantage of. So I don't blame owners for having low trust. I don't at all. Like, I don't blame them one bit. I have low trust. But I will say, if I'm pulling up a spreadsheet and I'm showing you your exact numbers and it's all right there, what is there not to trust? Like, it's right in front of you. And I'm sure you do the same thing when you're showing your clients, like, hey, these are your real numbers and here's where we are right now. And if we change 3 things, we're actually over here. And this is adding another zero to your bank account.
yeah. It's for us, it's figuring out how to unwind a lot of strings that were tied together that are preventing them from getting to the capital access that they need to, and you're 100% right. My space, especially the business lending space, is super predatory right now. Like,
Yeah.
everybody and their grandma offers funding and lending. It's in your CRMs. It's in your QuickBooks. It's
Yeah.
in you can access it through your freaking phone if you do your payment processing through your phone. It's in your
Mm-hmm.
face. Get $250,000 tomorrow in your bank account, right? I mean, it's everywhere. It's almost too much.
Yeah.
So then when they have somebody coming in there that is giving them a complete opposite conversation of like, yeah, you don't need money, dude. Like, you actually need to fix a lot of these other little baseline things first. It does take them a little bit of time to kind of wrap their head around that, because you're probably the first person that stopped them and went, no, we don't need more, we need less, and we need to control the less as it is. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's 100% that way. Um, I always tell people, especially clients, I'm like, before you hire somebody, you should ask them what all their ties are. CFOs. I have a client that with that they hired a CFO that put them into a bunch of MCA loans that they weren't aware that they were getting put into fully. And I would be willing to guess if you audited it, that CFO had ties to that lending company and made a nice fat commission on the back end of
Yep.
it, right?
Yep.
So it's ask a lot of questions to a point where you're either very uncomfortable with the amount of questions you're asking or you're comfortable with the person you're sitting across from because you don't feel like they're hiding anything anymore. I mean, that's at the end of the day what you need to do.
Absolutely. And to
So,
that end, too, one more thing that I see in my industry, when I get on consultations, people are like, okay, so is this like a small fee plus equity? And I'm like, no, do not give up your equity if you don't have to. Like anybody who's doing the work I do and they're taking equity, like that's a red flag, huge red flag. And it goes to the same thing. It's like ask the right questions and you'll save yourself a lot of headache and financial stress down the road for sure.
100%. So with that, we're getting close to time to wrap up here. So I do want to give you a chance. If anybody that is listening to this knows that they have issues, or maybe you just feel like you have issues, because sometimes it's a feeling. It's not even that you know that you have anything going on, because we know what we know. What's the easiest way for them to reach out to you and set up a consult?
Yeah. So my website is SmartOps, OPS like operations, smartops.club. You can also reach me on Facebook, Jenna Harris, SmartOpsClub, and I I'm not a high pressure person. Like I always start with just a basic conversation because at the end of the day, uh, it's about building relationships and building trust. So if you feel like you're working and working and working and your bank account isn't showing it, that is your number one sign that you probably need a second look.
Yep, I agree. 100% agree with that, and I see it all the time. Well, thank you for taking time to join us today. I really appreciate it, and there was some great insight. Always fun to share conversation with people that look at business and the overall process in a very similar fashion, because I think there is a lot of good people that are out there doing things the right way. You just have to ask questions, be familiar with what you're doing, and know where to look. For those of you that are out there listening, if you have anybody that you know that could use this information, content from other calls, feel free to like and share, get this podcast out there. And until next time, thank you guys.